George Washington, 1732 to 1799, presiding officer of the Constitutional Convention. George Washington was born to a wealthy slaveholding family in Westmoreland County, Virginia. One of 9 children, he received a rudimentary education, focusing his attention on learning surveying. At 16, he began his career as a surveyor. In his early 20s, Washington entered the Virginia militia. In 1754, he fought in the French and Indian War and became an aide to British General Edward Braddock in 1755. Disillusioned by his experiences, he resigned from his commission and returned to his plantation. Washington entered local politics, winning a seat in the House of Burgesses in 1758. He supported the early colonial protests and shared the growing resentment over taxation of the colonies. By the time he was called upon to represent Virginia in the First and Second Continental Congresses, Washington considered a break with England to be likely. After the bloodshed at Lexington and Concord, Congress called on Washington to serve as Commander-in-Chief of the Continental Army. As a result, he was absent from the Second Continental Congress when the Declaration of Independence was signed. For the duration of the war, Washington devoted his energies to his military role as leader of the Patriot forces. It was not until the Treaty of Paris was signed in 1783 that he returned to civilian life in his home at Mount Vernon. Although proud to be a Virginian, Washington advocated the creation of a more empowered central government. Like James Madison, James Wilson, and Alexander Hamilton, Washington recognized that the weak Confederation government could not meet the needs of the newly independent country. Washington hosted a conference at Mount Vernon in 1785 to discuss some of the most pressing national problems. And although he did not attend the Annapolis Convention in 1786, his anxiety about the state of the nation was obvious. In Washington's view, the faltering and floundering Confederation government was going to make America appear as a humiliating and contemptible figure in the annals of mankind. When friends and colleagues urged Washington to attend the convention forming in Philadelphia, he initially hesitated. However, he knew that his presence at the convention would lend it the much-needed legitimacy only he could bring. In the end, the pressures and pleadings of his friends and colleagues won him over. When the Constitutional Convention convened in May 1787, Washington was chosen as its presiding officer. This meant he believed that it would be inappropriate for him to engage in the debates that followed. But Washington's support for the proposed energetic government was obvious. On September 17th, he became the first to sign the United States Constitution. In 1789, with the new Constitution ratified, Washington was unanimously elected the first president of the United States. Over the next 8 years, Washington masterfully established the authority of the federal government, managed competing factions within his cabinet, directed a foreign policy based on neutrality in European conflicts, and supported Alexander Hamilton's financial programs. Despite the urging of many that he seek a third term, Washington was adamant in his refusal. In his farewell address, he urged his countrymen to avoid party spirit, to quiet sectional differences, and to avoid entangling alliances that would pull the young republic into the conflicts among other nations. He returned to Mount Vernon and to a much-desired retirement from politics. Washington died on December 14, 1799, at the age of 67, from what modern physicians diagnosed as acute epiglottitis. Over 400 mourning ceremonies followed the news of Washington's death. In his eulogy, Henry Lee declared the former president, "First in war, first in peace and first in the hearts of his countrymen, a tribute that is remembered today.